Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're cracking open a single document, the patch notes for the June 12, 2025 update to the MMORPG Black Desert.
Yep, that specific one.
And this wasn't some tiny patch either. It was about a 1.1 gigabyte download.
Right. That size usually signals some pretty substantial changes happening under the hood.
Definitely not just a minor hotfix.
Yeah.
Okay, let's unpack this. Our goal here is to sort through this, well, pretty massive list of updates, figure out the really important ones, and what they actually mean for your time in the game.
Exactly. Patch notes like these, they're basically the devs talking directly to the players, right? Telling us how the world's changing. They usually cover a few things. Temporary events, which kind of guide what people might focus on for a bit.
Right, the limited time stuff.
Then the bigger content additions or improvements, and of course all the fixes that just make things run smoother.
Gotcha. So let's maybe start with those limited time things, the events. Looks like these notes highlight three, starting with this patch.
Yeah, three main ones.
Okay, the first one is waiting for the festival. Special energy spreads through Heidel Village. That one runs for a while, June 12th to July 10th.
Right, that longer duration, almost a month. Usually, hence, it's connected to something bigger.
Like a lead-up event?
Probably. Events tied to specific places, like Heidel, often have dailies, maybe some mini-games, special vendors, trying to get people hanging out there. A month-long run. Yeah, very likely a precursor, or just part of a larger summer festival, worth checking out if you like that kind of town stuff.
Makes sense. Then there are two shorter ones, both running June 12th to June 26th. One definitely catches my eye for, gear stuff. Need to extract Caphras alcohol. This is your chance.
Oh yeah, that one's pretty direct. It's calling out to anyone deep into crafting or enhancing gear.
Caphras stones.
Yeah.
Super important late game, right, for adding those extra levels.
Exactly. Caphras levels 1 through 20 give you those small stat boosts or let you push for the next enhancement tier. And alcohol's key for alchemy, so an event around them. Probably means they're easier to get or maybe better rates for a couple of weeks.
So a temporary boost if you're focused on progression or maybe certain life skills.
For sure, a clear nudge in that direction.
And the third one, easily process accessories with imperfect power stones. That sounds specific, like a quality of life thing for crafters.
Precisely. It likely streamlines, a particular recipe or maybe breaking down certain accessories using those imperfect power stones.
Okay.
If you deal with tons of items or have specific crafting goals, even a temporary speed up like this is really welcome. These shorter events, they often target very specific systems, crafting, enhancing here, giving you a little boost if you engage with them.
All right, makes sense. So moving on from events to the more permanent stuff, content additions and improvements. Class adjustments are always in these, right?
Always. It's a constant refinement, balancing things, fixing bugs, making combat feel fair and responsive.
So what jumped out here? The notes mention general tweaks, but any specifics?
Well, they mention fixes across the board, but a couple of examples. For the Dosa class, they apparently increased the area where a skill's maximum attack increase effect applies. The actual skill range didn't change, just where you get the full damage bonus.
Ah, okay. So more reliable damage within that existing strike zone. Got it.
Exactly. Then we see fixes for movement flow, skill linking, things like that for several classes. Ranger, Meiwa, Valkyrie, Ran.
Look glitches.
Yeah, small stuff. Like a Ranger's evasive skill activating wrong sometimes, or a Meiwa roll animation looking weird after a certain skill. These micro adjustments, they're all about making the class feel smoother, less clunky to play.
And there was something about witch and wizard summons. Gore and Ted.
Ah, right. A fix for an issue where they could sometimes summon two pets under weird circumstances definitely sounds like a bug fix to stop any unintended power spikes.
Yeah, you don't want double pets running around if you're not supposed to have them.
No kidding. Individually, these might seem tiny, but add them all up, and it helps skills work like they're supposed to, vital for PvP, or even just less frustrating grinding.
Okay, shifting gears a bit. Life skills. Farming and taming got some love. Farming first moles.
Ah, yes, the farm moles. Everyone loves those. Or hates them. So if you do farming, these critters pop up on your crops, you catch them, they drop good stuff. Used to be just one, usually.
Usually, yeah.
But the notes confirm what people were seeing. Moles can show up in groups now. It's actually got probabilities. 50% chance for one mole, 35% for two, and a 15% chance for three moles at once.
Whoa, 3.
3! And you get a system message now telling you exactly how many spawned.
Okay, that's actually kind of huge for farmers, isn't it? More moles could mean way more income or resources, but also maybe more frantic clicking.
It definitely increases the potential reward, adds a bit of excitement or maybe dread, like you said, when you check your plots. And horse taming also got some quality of life tweaks.
Yeah, I saw that. Faster approach with the rope using shift.
Yeah,
And something no falling.
exactly. Little things, but they add up. When you're out trying to wrangle a wild horse, being able to close that gap faster, especially with better ropes like the Shining Taming Rope, which got a new visual effect too, just saves time. And the fall thing, not having the taming attempt automatically break if you just like stumble down a small ledge, that cuts down frustration massively for horse trainers. Small tweaks, but they make those dedicated activities feel way better.
Definitely. Okay, let's get into the items section because this looks like where some really big economic and progression changes are. Here's where it gets really interesting. They've unified CAFRA stone requirements for 2 specific boss gear pieces.
This is a major one for gear progression, yeah. Dimtree Spirit's armor and the Dandelion Awakening weapon. The number of CAFRA stones you need to pump into them using CAFRA's enhancement, adding those levels for stats, has been lowered
Lowered to match what?
to match the amounts needed for all the other standard boss gear pieces.
And did the notes say why they did this?
They did, yeah. Basically, Dimtree and Dandelion used to require more stones because historically they were kind of the top tier for a long time.
Right, I remember that.
But now, with newer, stronger gear out there, these pieces are often more like stepping stones, transition gear on the way to the absolute best stuff. So to make that path smoother, less of a resource sink, they've standardized the costs.
Less of a resource sink feels like putting it mildly when you see the numbers they put in the notes. This isn't like shaving off a few stones here.
No, not at all. It's significant. Let's look at the total stones needed to go from level 1 CAFRAS all the way up to 20 for different enhancement levels. Take Dimtree armor. Getting it to TRI used to take 1,706 stones total. Now, 1,483.
Okay, decent drop.
Now look at TET. Went from 11,189 down to 9,729.
Wow.
And the big one, PEN, that used to be 24,460 stones total. Now it's 21,744.
That's nearly 3,000 stones saved just for PE and Dimtree. That is a massive reduction in the grind or silver cost for that level.
It fundamentally changes the investment required, absolutely. And Dandelion Awakening weapons see similar drops. TRI goes from 1,823 to 1,590, TET from 17,689 down to 15,378, and PEN from 33,768 stones down to 29,403.
Again, thousands saved. Over 4,000 for PEN Dande. That's huge. It really lowers the barrier for getting those items fully CAFRA'd.
It's a substantial shift. Less time, fewer resources needed for these specific, very common pieces of gear.
And what about people who already, put more than the new max into their gear? Did they address that?
They did. There's a refund process. If you'd already filled your Dimtree or Dande past the new lower maximum for a given CAFRAS level, you get those extra stones back.
Okay, how? Where do they go?
The notes say they'll be sent to your storage in Heidel. There was a bit of confusion. Initially, they mentioned the June 12th maintenance first.
Right, I saw that correction.
Yeah, they corrected it to say the actual delivery date for those refunded stones is the June 19th maintenance.
Okay, good to know. So people shouldn't panic if they don't see them right away after the patch hits. That's smart, though. It respects the effort players already put in.
It definitely does. Avoids that feeling of, oh man, I just spent all those extra stones last week.
Right. Okay, moving on. Another huge item change. Central market price adjustments. They're changing the max prices for some stuff. Why?
Yeah, for a selection of produced items. The reason given in the notes is that for some things, the market price was just way too low compared to how much it actually cost in time or materials to make them.
So crafting wasn't worth it for some items.
Essentially, yeah. The market wasn't properly rewarding the people making the stuff through life skills like alchemy or processing. So by raising the maximum price cap on the central market, they're hoping to make those activities more profitable, encourage more people to do them.
Makes sense. What kind of items are we talking about? The list looked pretty key.
It includes some important ones like concentrated magical black stones used constantly for enhancing their max price went from 15 million silver up to 20 million.
Okay, noticeable bump.
Organic fertilizer, big for farming, went from 12,000 up to 21,400. That's a hefty increase.
Yeah, it is.
And then some of the high-end alchemy stuff saw massive jumps, like Immortal, Perfume of the Deep Sea. Max price went from 160 million up to 315 million.
Wow, nearly double.
Yeah, even top-tier ingredients like the Heart of Raoul. Raoul went from 1.5 billion up to 2 billion.
Okay, those perfume changes especially. That could seriously shake up the in-game economy, couldn't it?
Absolutely. If you craft those things, it suddenly becomes way more profitable. Might mean more supply eventually, but maybe prices spike initially. It definitely benefits the sellers, but makes things pricier for buyers who need those buffs or enhancement mats.
Could even change where people grind if certain spots drop components for these newly valuable items.
Exactly. It could ripple through the economy in interesting ways. And the notes also mentioned that anything already listed was sent back to storage and buy orders canceled. Basically a market reset for those items at the new price caps.
Necessary evil to make the change work, I guess, but
Yeah.
a bit disruptive if you had orders up. Okay, let's talk about something that seems like a pure win. Mass processing. Finally.
Oh, yeah, this is a great one. Saves so much clicking. Several items that used to be one by one or maybe small batches can now be processed in bulk.
Huge quality of life improvement. Which items specifically?
They listed things like those concentrated magical black stones, again, massive relief for enhancers. Also, the 60-minute soldier's life and experience buffs.
Oh, nice. Combining those was tedious.
Right. And several types of the event mysterious elixirs too, like turning their 60-min buffs into higher ones via simple alchemy. Now you can just chuck in 30 of the lower ones plus 1 blackstone powder and get 10 of the higher ones instantly. Same idea for heating shards and powder into concentrated stones. Bulk processing.
Anyone who does serious crafting or just preps buffs before grinding is going to love this. Cuts out so much repetitive busy work.
Totally. Makes those prep steps way more efficient. There are a couple other smaller item things too, like finally being able to put combat tomes, life tomes, and lanterns in the family inventory.
Oh, that is nice for alts.
Yeah, helps manage buffs across characters, though not sealed or expired ones, obviously. And a little tweak for the Beluera's Power Stone in Ataraxion gives you super armor while you equip it.
So you don't get knocked around trying to use it in combat.
Exactly. It just makes using that specific dungeon mechanic feel a bit better.
Nice little touches. Okay, let's shift to monsters. Some changes for bosses, right? Dark Rift bosses are spawning faster.
Well, their appearance effects are faster. You know that little animation before they become targetable?
Yeah, the dramatic entrance.
They're speeding that up for the Dark Rift bosses like Red Nose, Geoth, etc. And maybe more importantly, that brief moment of invincibility they had right at the start. Gone.
Less waiting around, more hitting the boss immediately. I like it.
Streamlines those weekly chores a bit. And speaking of bosses, Enhanced World bosses got a pretty important bug fix for loot.
Oh, right. People were sometimes not getting drops. That's a bad bug.
A very bad bug. They fixed that issue. And they also tweaked the gold bar drop from those bosses. Instead of just a chance at 1000 G gold bar,
Yeah.
you now get a lucky gold bar box, which contains anywhere from 1 to 5 1000 G bars.
So it's variable now. Could be better, could be the same, but the guaranteed gold is still there.
Guaranteed drops are unchanged, yeah. Just that specific RNG drop is now a box. Higher potential ceiling, maybe slightly less consistent if you only get 1 bar from the box.
Okay. And they mentioned compensation for the people who missed loot because of the bug, right?
They did. They'll get reward bundles and one of those lucky gold bar boxes based on when they were affected. And like the Caphras refund, the delivery date for this was also corrected to the June 19th maintenance.
Good they're making that right. What about the big PvP stuff? Node Wars, Conquest Wars?
Some specific balance tweaks for the structures. Upgraded flame towers hit players harder now, like 50% harder. But lynch cannons are easier to destroy, durability halved.
Ouch for cannon users.
Yeah. But siege defense towers got tougher, 50% more durability, and they fire 20% faster. And they also improved how responsive the summoned monsters feel, like the dark contract trolls.
So clear adjustments, trying to shape the siege meta, make things feel better in those big fights.
Exactly. Keeping the balance dynamic, making sure the tools work well.
And then there was the usual grab bag of smaller UI things and quest fixes.
Yep. Clearer visuals for Black Spirit's Adventure, little tweaks to the coupon screen, the game launcher, clarifying quest text so you know what you're actually supposed to do. Polish, basically.
Yeah.
Improves the user experience bit by bit.
And that leads into the massive fixes and adjustments section.
Yeah.
Always long.
Always huge. Just tons of specific bug fixes based on player reports. We can't list them all, obviously, but examples were things like fixing the capture bar in Red Battlefield resetting when it shouldn't.
Annoying.
Fixing a weird bug where you could get stuck with a water shortage debuff permanently in one area. Visual glitches on outfits, the fairy skill, meticulous hands not using event elixirs correctly, just loads of stuff like that.
Individually maybe minor, but getting rid of dozens of those little frustrating things really adds up to a smoother game.
Absolutely. The cumulative effect is huge, makes the whole experience less irritating, more
Yeah.
stable.
So, okay, let's try and sum this all up. What does this patch really mean for you, the player? We've got some new events pushing certain activities for a few weeks, quality of life stuff like mass processing, better taming, making daily tasks less annoying,
Right, the efficiency boosts.
and then the really big impact stuff.
Okay.
Those Caphras cost reductions are major for gear progression, and the market price changes could significantly shift crafting profitability and the economy. Plus, general polish with boss fixes, PvP tweaks, and squashing tons of little bugs.
Yeah, the impact definitely hits different depending on what you actually do in Black Desert. If you're grinding for Caphras for that Dim Tree or Dande, huge win, less grind needed.
Mhm.
If you're Master Crafter or play the market, those price changes are something you have to pay attention to. Could change your whole strategy. Farmers, tamers get nice little buffs, and pretty much everyone benefits from the game just feeling more stable and less buggy thanks to all those fixes. It really comes down to thinking about which of these changes affects your gameplay the most.
It's always fascinating how one update touches so many different parts of such a complex game. Economy, progression, daily chores, PvP, even down to how many moles might pop up in your farm plot.
It really is interconnected, isn't it? And actually thinking about that mix, those big shifts we talked about, the reduced Caphras costs, those potentially huge market price jumps, or even that mole change. Which one of those do you think is going to have the biggest, maybe most unexpected ripple effect? On the economy or just how people play day to day in the next few weeks?
That's a good question to ponder.
Something for you to think about as you dive back in after the patch.
A perfect thought to leave you with. That wraps up our deep dive into the Black Desert patch notes from June 12th, 2025. Hopefully this helps you navigate all the new changes.